Okay. Thank you. I'll record the beginning part again for the whole time. But
You can
yes,
repeat, Vince. Sorry,
yeah,
we won't
I'll
make you
repeat.
repeat
No,
that.
not repeat the whole part in right
Just
now.
kidding. Okay.
But I'll record the front part and then post it up. Okay. So again, trustee foreclosure. Within the first 10 business days after recording it, they have to send 2 copies to the owners, any deceased owner's estate, or anybody that requests a copy. Of course, anybody that has a lien on there will request a copy. So if I had a mechanics lien on there, I would request, if this ever gets into foreclosure, I want to know because I want to get my money back before you foreclose on it, right? Now, this I believe is on the quiz also. Within 1 month of them sending a copy of the NOD, they have to also send it to the successors of interest, any junior lien holders. So even if you didn't request for a copy, they have to give all the people that's even the buyers on the lease contract, even the lease. So typically, if they are on a lease, they will have to get a notice. But of course, some people out there, they don't have an official lease, or the lenders, think it's a personal property and a lot of people do this. I'm not suggesting you guys do this, but a lot of people have it as a prime residence, and then later, after a few years, they rent it out. But to the lenders, they still think it's a prime residence. Okay, so that's how that happens. You're supposed to. You're definitely supposed to let your lenders know you moved out, you're buying another property, and you're gonna rent this out. Yes, yes. Um. Okay, trustee sale.
If they find out that you are renting it and you moved out, and can they accelerate for that reason as well?
Oh, that's a really good question. I believe so. Honestly, I think they will. So what mostly they would happen when they reassessed it, because later on you're gonna see a slide when they actually have this happen with the power of sale provision. They also have a way to modify the loan. So they could say, instead of us asking for all the money back, we're gonna say, hey, your rate right now is 4%. If you still want this, you're gonna have to pay 6%, right? So they can adjust the loan also and give you a choice: either pay the 6% or give us money back. Okay, because just let you guys know, when you're buying real estate, typically when you're buying an investment property, it will always be higher interest rate than if you're buying as a principal residence. Okay, and they typically want a higher down payment also. Now, trustee sales may be postponed at any time prior to completion of foreclosure. Trustee sales may be postponed by instructing the beneficiary, which is the bank, and they could, of course, choose at the discretion. Basically, to postpone or reschedule, they have to give a notice of postponement, a time and place, and also have a public declaration that says the reason and a new date and time. So we've done this many, many times before. Like I told you, we say, hey, we're going to do a short sale. Mr. Lender, can you please give us 60 days? So we're going to list it for 2 weeks, and hopefully another 30 days for closing, and give 2 weeks of backup. So we give a new date. 60 days from now will be a new trustee sale date. Hopefully we can sell it in time and then pay them off. All right. A trustee sale is a public auction. You can go to the court steps and do these trustee foreclosure. Sometimes now they do it online with auction.com and others, these third-party vendors now that do it. Before the auction begins, trustee may, of course, demand all prospective bidders to show evidence of their financial ability to pay or have a precondition of the debt. They will hold the prospective amounts to be bid as well. The bid auction has to be, of course, bid in US dollars in the form of either cash, cashier's check, any check issued by a state or federal savings and bank or credit union, or any cash equivalent. Each bidder in a trustee sale is an irrevocable offer to purchase the property, and subsequent offer bid cancels the prior bid. I believe that's on the quiz also. What does this mean? This just means once I put a bid and say I want to buy it for 500,000, you can't change your mind. You can't go do the inspections and go, oh, I don't want it no more. When you're buying an auction, it's you put your bid, it's in. Every higher bid gets canceled, meaning if someone else bids 510 and they end up not buying it, they can't go back to me, Vince, you're next. You did put 500, you have to buy it now. No. Once there's a high offer, my offer gets canceled out. Okay. I believe that's on
So the
max.
bidder cannot they cannot get a loan. They have to pay through cash or cashier checks.
Yeah. So most of these will not, because you have to remember, they want it to be paid off right fast. You won't be able to have time to have a lender do their appraisal, give 30 days, because most lenders, again, takes 21 to 30 days to close. They're not going to give you that. These auctions, once you close, you better get it done already. So if you do get a loan, which is impossible to get this type of loan, I take that back. If you have what we call a home equity line of credit loan, okay, where you have a house that's paid off, and you're gonna pull $300,000 out of your home equity line, and it's already approved, you just gotta say, cut me the check and pay them off. Those type of, yes, you can. But if you're doing the normal way where everybody says, hey, to get a pre-approval and then put offer in the house, you can't do that way, because again, it takes too long, and you have to do appraisals. The lender has to see the property, and they have to underwrite it. They don't allow that. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Great questions. I'm glad you guys are asking questions now. So I love answering questions. All right. Successful bidder who fails. What happens if they bid and they fail to pay for it? Well, they're gonna have to pay for our damages, including their court costs, including attorney fees, and the cost for re-recording and serving the NOTS. Of course, every time when you put the bid in, you're gonna have to put a deposit, and they're gonna take deposit. There's something called a bona fide purchaser, BFP, which is a buyer other than the beneficiary who purchases a property for the value of a trustee sale without notice of title or trustee sale defects. And this is a very common practice where a lender, sometimes auction will be a lot less than what the lender's price is. So let me give you an example. I owe $700 on the property, and you know, and the lenders have $700 into this property, and they list it for $500,000 on auction. Well, the lenders are gonna lose money regardless if it sells for under. So what they're gonna do is get a bona fide purchaser and just have someone bid to that max $700,000 amount. They're not supposed to go any more, right? They can't bid up the price, but they can at least put a bid for at least what their loan is. All right. And if I was a seller financing and I was to see it go for foreclosure, I would do the exact same thing. Okay. Now, any excess amount is called surplus funds. And remember, I told you guys, lenders are not in the business to try to foreclose on you. It's not like they can foreclose on you, sell it for more, and keep the profits. They can't do that. So what they have to do is, of course, pay off all the expenses. Let me turn off my phone. I apologize. Turn off notification. Okay. Again, they have to pay for all the expenses, including the trustee fees, the attorney fees, pay all the debt secured, pay any outstanding debt. So you have other lien holders and the mechanics liens, pay them off. If you paid everybody plus all the fees, and then there's some amount left, then you could get the rest of it, which, very, very rare cases. Okay. Now let's talk about judicial foreclosure. Okay. Why is judicial foreclosure not used very much? Well, it is court ordered sale and can last 8 months to multiple years. Do you think the bank will like that? No. You guys know, even right now, the courts are so behind. Like getting a ticket just to pay off your ticket. Sometimes like your court day is like 3 months out. Well, same for foreclosures. It's going to be months out or maybe years. So no one really wants to wait that long, right? Also, it's very expensive because you have litigation fees, you have to do appraisal fees now, and you have to do attorney fees. So again, more cost, longer. That's why banks do not want to do judicial, and that's why they put in that power sale provision, so they have that trustee sale power that they don't need to go through all this. Okay. Now, at the time a lawsuit is filed, of course, the foreclosure lender will record a notice of pending action named lis pendens. You guys remember that vocabulary word, right? Hopefully you guys do. Lis pendens. If you don't remember, it's pending action or lawsuit. And of course, that's to satisfy the outstanding debt and cover the foreclosure costs. Now, you get a certificate of sale issued at a successful bidder on completion of a judicial sale. Why? Why you don't get a deed? Remember when we transfer, we usually get a deed. Well, in a judicial foreclosure, although the bidder purchased the property at a public auction, they will not become the owner right away. They actually have a redemption period. So whoever lost the property, like if I had a property that was foreclosed and it went through for judicial, I actually have a redemption period. So here's a redemption period. If it's a purchase asset loan from a 1 to 4 residential, okay, not for commercial, okay, and I am not liable for any deficiencies of the property, I have 3 months to pay off that debt and get that property back. So whoever won that bid, of course, they put deposit. It will take 3 months. If I cannot buy it back, then they get the property. They get, the transferred over and all that stuff. Here, however, there's a caveat. However, if the owner is liable for a recourse debt, can anybody tell me what recourse debt means? We talked about like 2 weeks ago, I believe. There's non-recourse loan, recourse loan. Anybody remember? Recourse loan means they can come after you for the difference of the debt. Remember when I told you guys, non-recourse is which most houses that we buy, residential, if I bought a property, I bought it for 800,000. The market crashed. It sold for 500,000 only. The lenders are missing 300,000. Well, guess what? Non-recourse, too bad. The property as a collateral itself satisfies my debt. You cannot come after me for the difference. However, if you have a recourse loan, typically commercial, I owe 800. They sold for 500,000. They're gonna go, hey Vince, guess what? We only sold for 500. There's 300,000 left. You gotta still owe me the difference. Now they can sue you, go after any other assets that you may have, etc. Okay, so that's a big difference. If it was a recourse debt, like a commercial property that went in foreclosure, I have 1 year to be able to redeem it. Okay, hopefully you understand that. If you guys don't understand recourse and non-recourse, let me know now. Because again, it's important because you have to let all your clients know, hey, most debts now are non-recourse loans. Okay. Let's talk about anti-deficiency. So this is that difference, that 800,000 you owe, sell for 500,000. Well, there's a limitation of what the ability for recover losses on default, and that value is insufficient to satisfy it. Recourse debt, of course, other than mortgage classified as non-recourse debt, a lender may only pursue the homeowner for the loss of the recourse deficiency of the price. Now, I'm gonna tell you a couple of things. So if the court value is less or the bid is less, you don't owe it, of course, if it's a non-recourse. But there is a noticeable exception. So here's the exception. If they or the owner cause something called bad faith waste. We talked about it earlier today. Waste. You committed waste, meaning let the property go in really bad shape. And you did that on purpose. For those that were buying properties in 2007, 2008, 2009, man, we went to see properties where the owners ripped off everything. They ripped out all the cabinets, and I probably try to sell it because they lost a lot of money. So they ripped out the toilet, sold the toilet, ripped out the mirror, sold the mirror, and literally the house was like empty. Okay. In those cases, the bank can actually say you destroyed the property and made the value go down and can come after you because of that, right? However, the banks were so up to their heads with foreclosures, they didn't sue anybody. And that was a perfect time because I bought a lot of properties where I walked in, it's literally no kitchen. And I bought for, it's worth maybe 120,000. I bought for only 70,000, so it was really great time to invest at that time because of that. So I actually thank the people that destroyed the houses. We got really good deals because of that.
So some of the, even on like, so you're kind of, but what if they stole like the piping? Because I remember copper was a big deal.
Copper piping was getting stolen a lot. But the thing is, at that time, because there's so much empty vacant houses, people were just breaking in and stealing it. It wasn't the previous owner. So when a bank owns it and it's foreclosed already, and someone breaks in, the bank, they're liable for fixing it or whatnot. Yeah, a lot of people were breaking in. So there's a lot of copper piping like behind like the bathroom stalls and stuff like that, and in faucets and sinks, and that's worth money. So yes. Well, there's also anti-deficiency protection. has extended to people that were negotiation on short payoffs or what we call short sales. Again, I told you about short sales. I'm trying to sell property for less than what I'm owed. At least, of course, they're going to forgive that, right? Now, let's talk about the MID. And this is a subsidy. And this is why a lot of people buy real estate. You ever heard people say, oh, I need to buy some real estate. I need some tax write-offs. Well, this is one of the reasons why. However, I don't like going to political stuff, but they're trying to remove a lot of stuff. They're trying to remove this. They're trying to remove a lot of real estate tax benefits. And that's really scary. It's going to really affect our business. And if you are, for me, I invest in real estate. Like if I lose my tax write-offs, that's going to hurt, right? And especially if I lose a 1031 exchange, which they're trying to remove also, it's going to hurt. So take this with a grain of salt. If right now, if you buy real estate, you have a mortgage deduction. So your property taxes, your insurance and your property and interest, you can write those off. Okay. A mortgager's premium mortgage PMI is also deductible. Again, property tax and your principal residence profit excursion. I'm hoping to keep this also. What that means is if I own a property and I lived in it for last, at least 2 out of the last 5 years. If I sell it, if I'm single, I get 250,000 tax exclusion. So meaning I bought for 500,000, I sold for 750 because, the value went up a lot in the last 2 years. I don't pay any taxes. That's amazing. You know how much money I save because of that? Because tax on $200,000, you're talking about, 28% tax bracket. That's a lot of money. If you're married, that's up to 500,000. Okay. Yeah. So I teach you a really cool tax excursion tip because my brother-in-law and my sister do this all the time. They have multiple properties, but what they do is they live in it for a few years. It's the principal residence. They sell it, get full tax benefit, move into one of the other properties, live it for 5 years, sell it. Again, every time they do this, zero tax paid, right? So that's powerful. Hopefully they don't remove this also, but that's also on the chopping blocks from what I hear. Okay.
So that was just untaxed income that you get from that property once you sell it and move into the other spot. That's what they're getting.
Yeah. So if I sold it,
That's
that
absolutely
250,000
amazing.
is not taxed.
Wow.
So I don't know, like stocks. Guess what? You make 250,000, you gotta pay 250,000. Anything else you do, real estate is one of those where it's highly leveraged and there's so much tax benefits. There's a reason why so much people make millions in real estate, and that's one of them. Can you imagine? I just bought a house, lived for 5 years. Oh, now it went up 500,000, which it did. Like if I bought property back then in 2013, some of them went over $500,000 in appreciation. I sold it. I just made $500,000 not taxed. That's crazy. Okay.
That
Is there
crazy.
any bracket?
I'm sorry.
Is there any tax? Is there any limit or bracket to get this
Yeah,
tax?
so 500,000. So what if I made $1 million? Well, what happens is 500,000 is not taxed, and then I'm taxed off that other 500,000. Does that make sense?
Right. But
You said
ideally,
500,000?
500,000 for married. If you're a married couple,
Okay.
250 for if you're single.
what if you're married but you file separate? Does that matter or no?
I think you have to talk to your CPA for that. That I can't answer. I don't know. Yeah. So any of these, so I know the rules is 500,000, but I'm sure there are exceptions. Like if like I don't know. I'm trying to think off my head, like gay marriage where they have the new type of rules on that. Or what if you lived in it for 3 years and then rented out for the next 2 years? I think there's a what they call prorate it. They prorate it. Okay. So, but again, when you are in this situation, it's best to talk to your CPA and all that stuff. So you guys as agents, you can tell them the rules because that's the rules. That's like set in stone. But I wouldn't give them any advice on their specific situations. Always have them seek professional help. Remember that, please. So let's talk about the deductions. So deductions in turn reduce the amount of taxable income a homeowner pays in income tax, and the taxable amount is a percentage based on the tax bracket. To encourage, here's to create turnover in ownership. Turnover creates more sales, which provides real estate services, which have more earnings. When one home is sold, they'll likely buy another one, and the sales tend to purchase a replacement home. So for the government's mind, why would the government want to do this? Well, they make money every time it sells. They get reassessed on property tax. They get transfer tax fees that the government gets. So they want people to keep buying and selling. Because if everyone just bought a house and lived in it forever, we'd be in trouble because there'll be no house for sale, and us as realtors will be out of job, right? We want people to buy and upgrade and downgrade and keep this going. Okay. Now here's the thing with deductions. I'm not the CPA, right? I'm just kind of tell you like even as a real estate business, because a lot of you guys might be coming from a regular W-2 job. They already take the tax out of your money. You make 10,000, guess what? You only end up with 7,000. Well, here in real estate, when I make 10,000, I get the whole 10,000. And what I do at the end of the year is, let's say I made 200,000. I'm gonna say, hey, I spent money on my lease. I spent money on my car, my mileage. You could do a mileage deduction. Meals and stuff. They're changing all the rules. I heard it used to be like you could do 100% of when you take a client out, but now it's like 50%. But again, check with your TPA because they keep changing the rules. When I buy my laptop, I could write off that. So I could say I've written off 120,000 worth of expenses. Guess what? I only get taxed on my 80,000, which that's why a lot of people say, business owners, by percentage wise, business owners pay a lot less than a standard employee. So if you were an engineer making 200,000, you would probably pay a high tax bracket and end up with only 100 and 150,000, right? Whereas me, I might end up writing off most of it, pay maybe 20,000 in taxes. I got to keep 180,000. I kept 30,000 more because I wrote off a lot of stuff. For you guys, this class is a write-off. Anything you spent to get your license, your fee for the state exam, the joining the board fees, anything you buy now, like my paper, my phone, I write off some of my phone, write off everything as much as you can. Okay. There's two categories in mortgages that control the deductions. So first off, if it's a primary residence or second home. So primary residence is one that you stay in most of your time, most of the year. A second home will be one that you stay, of course, a certain time of the year. And there is a limit. I can't remember how far, but you can't say San Francisco is my main residence and have a second home like right at San Jose. That's too close. They don't, a lot of times they want it like a cabin in like Yosemite or something like that. It's like a real second.
I was gonna ask about that. So like, if I live in San Jose and I have a cabin in Arnold and I stay there like sometimes.
Yeah, you could definitely do that as a second home.
Okay.
And of course you want to have the lender tell you how far is considered a second home, right? Yes. So interest on balance of purchase improvement. So when I wrote this up, it was $1 million. During Trump administrative, they dropped it to 750, and they're gonna lower this even more, maybe, or get rid of it. But as of right now, I believe it's 750. And then also interest on all mortgage, in addition to 100,000 of home equity mortgages, qualifies as well. For income tax reporting, homeowners can deduct their adjusted AGI interest paid from the first and second home to reduce their taxable income. And of course, the mortgage interest reported is an itemized deduction. So you have to do an itemized deduction, okay? So what is itemized deduction? This is basically, like I told you, I made 200,000 and now I paid, $10,000 in property tax and how much ever interest I paid for, I can deduct that from my income. Here's the definition. So again, property where you reside most of the year, and the second home is do not reside for majority of the year. That's all. So to qualify for home improvements, you could also try to deduct home improvements, but the home improvements must be substantial. It must add to the property's value, prolong the property's usefulness, or change the property's residential use. So if I put a whole addition into it, I can use that and deduct it, right? But if you just change the toilet, yeah. Interest paid on the portion of the mortgage balance which exceeds the fair market value is not deductible also. As you guys know right now, people are paying over asking, way even over asking appraised value, and they're paying the difference. That extra that you paid, the difference, you cannot deduct that. That doesn't count as interest paid. Okay. Let's talk about points. Points is actually a very powerful thing. You ever heard of lenders going no points, no fees? Well, points is basically a prepaid interest, and it helps buy down your mortgage par rate. Par rate just means your interest rate at 0. Okay. A lot of times when we do loans, I'm teaching a little about loans, we can play around the rates. When someone says, hey, I'll give you 2.75, it might be at par. But I could give you 2.65 if you pay $3,000. And that's what we call the points. And I don't want to go too in detail because we have a long day today. If you do want to learn more about this, I can train you later on. But you really need to make sure that you know how to compare loans, because again, someone's going to quote you 2.65 with 2,000 closing costs, and someone says, I'll give you 2.5, but you have to pay 7,000 closing costs. You still don't really know which one is better. Always look at the APR. Okay, you look at the APR, it usually factors all that in. All right. Capitalized costs. Capitalized costs is originally the mortgage on property other than the first and second, partially recovered by annual depreciation deductions, fully recovered when the property is sold. This is a great tax benefit for investment properties. Okay, again, other than your first and second. So if I own an investment property, I can say, hey, I have a depreciation deduction. I can divide this house. I can't remember the exact amount. I think it's 26 and a half years, 26 to 27 and a half years. But I could divide that up for the value of the property, the building, not the land, only the building. And I could say, hey, this year I made $10,000 in rent, but I want to depreciate my asset because you know your property the is a business, right? The value of the property will depreciate because it gets older, right? Like a car, it gets older. A house, hey, it's gonna need new plumbing later on. It's gonna need new roof later on. So I am actually gonna deduct that from my taxes. So even though I made $10,000 that year in cash flow, I don't have to pay any taxes if you know how to do it and say I had depreciated for that same 10,000. So again, there's all these really good tricks and tax benefits for owning real estate, and not just for yourself to know, but teach others, that your clients, about this, and of course, hopefully they use you, right? A lot of great tax benefits with real estate. All right, we're in the property management section. This is very long. What time is it? Hopefully we have 15 minutes before break. Let's talk about property management. First off, an owner operator does not need to have a broker license, okay, to be able to manage own property. All right. If you are hiring someone, that person being hired must have the license. If you're getting paid for it, you must have a license. But if you own your own real estate, no license needed. So a landlord, of course, can operate the tenants, operate and find qualified tenants, prepare for occupancy agreements, give the possession of premises, contract for maintenance, collect rent, pay expenses, serve notices of UD. What was the UD again? You guys remember? I kind of gave you the answer. It's to evict people, right? You want to evict someone, you have to file a unlawful detainer, UD. If the owner operator decides to hire an individual, of course, this person must be licensed. Unless, hopefully you guys remember, if it's a resident manager that's 16 units or above, they don't need a license, okay? But individual or corporation that holds a broker license, if they perform or offer to perform any of these services for a fee, you must have a license, okay? Offer real estate to rent or lease, market it to prospective tenants, listing it for tenants for rental, locating a rent or lease for a renter, selling, buying, exchanging a leasehold estate, managing income producing property, so like upkeeping it and stuff like that for a fee, collecting rent, landlord related solicitations, entering into a property management with a landlord, rental or lease negotiations, care for maintenance, marketing a property, and doing the accounting for a landlord. All this you need to have a license for. I can't jump ahead, but yes, again, apartment building complex, 16 or more, they have to have a resident manager. This resident manager has to live on site and help out with it, but they don't have to have a license. Okay. The resident manager does not need a real estate license. Also exempt are anybody with the power of a power attorney, or what we call attorney in fact. So if my parents gave me a power attorney, I can manage my parents' property and not need a license. Okay. What can unlicensed people do? So there are unlicensed people that can do some stuff. They can show facilities. They can provide tenants with information. Okay. They can do the rental applications, answering questions, accept screening fees, sign the lease, accepting, I'm sorry, they can't do the actual lease, but just take the signed lease in, and accepting rents and security deposits. Okay. Now, a broker's primary objective as a property manager is to, one, oversee the maintenance. You want to make sure that you maintain the property, maintain the lawn, maintain the fix anything that needs to be fixed, like a leak. Fill vacancies, of course, most property managers make based on vacancies, like if it's rented. If it's not rented, they don't make no money, right? And of course, you want suitable tenants because you know, you don't want someone that's going to give you a headache and not pay. So you want to make sure you do all the, and I'll teach you some tricks for the background checks. Collect rent, of course, and then account to the landlord. This is a big thing. You have to do all the accounting. How much rent, which unit pays in, how much they pay, when they paid. Oh, I have to pay for this gardener. I have to pay for this much for the community electric. You have to have that all in writing and give them a statement every single month, right? So property manager must have the time and experience to actively oversee and operate all rentals entrusted in the management. And that's a big reason a lot of brokers don't do it. You want to go to Keller Williams or Coldwell Banker and ask them, hey, can I work for you and do property management? No, they usually don't allow it, okay? A lot of times you will have to, if you want to do property manager, you have to join a company that usually specializes in it, okay? But Sonia, she's a property manager here. She always tells me she wants to get out of the business. I actually have a really good friend in San Francisco. Same thing. She hates it. She gets so much stress because she gets yelled at by the tenants. She gets yelled at by the landlord. So she's like right in the middle. So it's a lot of headache. You know? I manage only just my 2 properties, and already it's kind of like not too bad. But I can't imagine if you had like 40 properties to manage. Oh my God, that must be a headache. Okay, that's up to you guys if you want to do it. So property manager's obligations, of course, hold the license, diligently do your duties, sufficiently oversees employees acting on your behalf, handle all the accounting, of course, doing all the contracting. So, you know, any repairs needed, maintenance, monitoring the utility service for the landlord as well, right? Making sure the lights are on, water's on. Because you get in big trouble if you have no electricity or water, if you don't pay for your bill. Advertising for prospective tenants, showing the properties, negotiating, executing rental and leases, of course, responding to timely manner of needs of tenants. That's a big one, just let you know, because my friend was telling me if like they had like mold issues and you do not take care of it and they get sick from it, oh, big lawsuit, especially anything to deal with health, right? So you want to take care of those issues right away, especially if it deals with water. Evaluating rentals and agreements periodically. Like I told you, when the lease is ending, you want to make sure that, hey, it's either renewed or switched to a month-to-month. You know what's going on. Serving them tenants of unlawful detainers, if of course they're not making payments. Regularly inspect the properties, and I'm give you a few good tips on inspecting properties because you should do it. And keeping the property secure. Okay. Now, the way property is operated develops goodwill, especially with goodwill with tenants. Economically, goodwill equates to earning power of the property, and a property manager in ordinary courses of managing a property will concentrating on increasing the intangible image of goodwill. What is goodwill? Care maintenance of the property. Make sure you know it looks nice and you're not dilapidated. You're not being what we call a slum landlord. I think they call it slum landlord, meaning cockroach infested and things need to get fixed and just don't take care of it, right? Maintains appropriate tenant mix. Hey, don't have just all one race in there and make people feel, discriminatory. Okay. Give effective and timely attention to tenants. Hey, when the tenants call you for, something, make sure you reach them back or take care of it right away. Like if they have a toilet problem, send someone as soon as possible. I like to even go above and beyond. And I think I told you guys, I'm not sure, but I like to, Christmas, send my tenants Christmas gifts, or at least a gift card, at least. When you do things like that and they like you, they will keep better care of your property. Yeah. And I hear this all the time where the tenant doesn't bother, the landlord doesn't bother tenant. Like the little things, they fix it themselves. They won't bother me for it. So that's, what you want, right? Especially as a property manager or a landlord. Now, the property manager's frequent, well-documented inspections is nearly as important as accurate accounting. It's very important that you inspect properties. Okay, so let's talk about physical condition, making sure that, hey, it's in good shape. You don't want the landlord to find out, hey, why is there a leak that wasn't fixed that destroyed the insulation now and also destroyed the ceiling, right? That's more money for them to fix now. Availability of habitable units. Of course, you want to make sure it's habitable, right? It has to be livable. It has AC. No, not AC. It has to have heater. Okay. Has to have running water, electricity. Use of these premises by existing tenants. Now, this is a big one. What if they sublease it to 10 other people? What if they're growing marijuana or meth lab in there, right? Destroying your property. You have to double check. One of my properties was used for a grow house. We didn't even know until they caught the people and took off our smart meter. Like our smart meter is gone. They contact us, and me and my uncle like, what's going on? And of course, we had to go there. They destroyed our property. It was $40 worth of damage. We had to claim insurance, and it was a big headache. Okay, so you always have to go see your property. So how often? Number one, when you go see the property is when you as property manager and the landlord enters into agreement. You have to go see it, right? And see what are defects, what are the maintenance that we need to get done. And of course, if they say, if there's any discrepancy, sign it. This can be as is. The landlord doesn't want to fix it. He just wants to leave it as is. Of course, if it's minor. If it's a major thing, you want them to fix it, right? Especially like heater and things like that. Number two, when you go and rent the property to a tenant, and this is where it gets really annoying. Like I don't like having to do open house and showings, especially in COVID right now, having to have like 10 renters trying to come in and see the property. Well, you have to show it, okay, as a property manager. Number three, during your lease, you have to always go there periodically. A manager, and they recommend at least once a year, right? That's the kind of like the thing. But here, you have to know the date and time. You have to know why. You have to let them know, of course, when's the last inspection, what the service, if there's maintenance needed. Give them a reason why you're seeing it, okay? And they have to give you access to it, okay? Now, you have to also show it again, or go see the property again 2 weeks prior to a tenant vacating. So if the tenants were vacating, they're leaving, you have to go in there and do what we call a termination of possession and do a joint pre-expiration inspection with them. What is this? Basically, when you go see the property, actually, you know what? I do want to go back over here. I always tell people this, and I forgot to mention to this. When you go and rent out to the property, you have to do a walkthrough. Okay, it's a condition of premise addendum. I missed this, and this is very important. So when you first rent out to your tenant, you're supposed to fill this out. I don't like just filling this out. I'll tell you why. It's a form that goes, hey, carpet has a stain, or brand new carpets, whatever you write on the condition. It's all subjective. So what I like to do now, everybody has a camera phone, record the whole property, right? Now, I should have brought it. I always show people, I have a 3D camera, which is really cool. My 3D camera, I take a snapshot and you can see the whole room. You can look at the ceiling, the bottom, and it's like you're really there. I do that with all my properties now. That way, if they move out and we go, hey, there's a stain on that carpet, and they go, no, it wasn't there. If you don't have pictures to prove it, you're gonna lose the case. Now, if I have a video of it, and I sent it to them, email to them as well, and then they acknowledge that they received it. When the time comes, guess what? I have a recording. There's no stain right there, and my 3D video, you can see it clearly. Now there's a stain there. I'm gonna deduct it from your deposit, and they can't fight you with it because you have proof. So make sure you have a condition of premises addendum, and also at least minimum take good pictures or record it, because everybody can record it now. So it's very easy, right? Very important. Okay. So going back to this part, compare it. So when you have a joint pre-expiration inspection, when they're leaving, you have to give them a chance to go, hey, fix this, fix that. If you fix those, I won't take your deposit. If you don't fix it, ask them to clean the carpets or fix that hole in the wall that they punched. For some reason, I go to a lot of properties and people punch a lot of holes in walls when they get mad. Well, I make them have to fix it, right? If not, I'm gonna deduct it. So you have to give them at least this chance to fix what you need to get fixed so they can get their deposit back. Number 5, when you go see it, as you can see, you go see a property a lot. Imagine you're dealing with 40 of these. That's why I'm scared of property management. So the condition compared to the joint inspection, you base the difference, and now we can reasonably deduct what the security deposit is for any repairs that we need. Okay, which is fair. Number 6 time that you have to go see the property, of course, is if you give back the property to the owner and say, hey, you cancel the contract, you don't manage the property no more, they're selling it or whatever the reason is, then you have to go see it again, go with the owner and say, hey, these are the condition, hopefully is at the same or a better condition, right? Not worse, that you did your job to upkeep and maintain it. And that's it. Okay, so you do have to see the property a lot. Okay, and you have to document. It says document all the stuff that you do, and that way you're protected. Everything is documentation, because in lawsuit, the person that's most prepared with documents usually wins. Okay. Hold on 1 second. We finish that one. Okay. What time is it? Let's take an early break because I need some drink. It's 7:29. Let's come back at 7:34. I am gonna press pause. And please remind me to record, and so I don't have to record too much.
Okay.
Awesome. So pause, resume recording. All right, let's get started. So the residential landlord and tenants typically enter into either a fixed term lease or periodic rental. And we talked about this before, right? I'm gonna go in more detail on how to terminate the lease. Okay, that's because that's important. So month to month runs for indefinite period of time. It automatically renews every month with the same terms until modified. So if I had a month to month with the tenant and I never contact them, they never contact me, it could be 100 years and they can still live in it. Okay. Periodic tenancies can be terminated by either the landlord or the tenant. If the tenant wants to terminate the lease, he or she must give at least a 30-day written notice. If a landlord wants to terminate the lease, he or she must give the tenant at least 60-day notice. If it's more than a year. If they live only for 6 months, then you just give them 30 notice. Okay, so 30, less than a year, 60 for more than a year. That is going to be a quiz question.
But if you have a signed lease already, say 1 year signed.
Yeah, so I mean, when you have a 1 year signed lease, let's say today is February 15. So next year, February 15, I'm gonna let them know, hey, I want the lease end. I want to give you a, but that one it ends already. But like what we're talking about here, if you look at it, it says periodic tenancy. Periodic tenancy means it's a month to month.
Okay.
So like, remember I told you, like, after 10 years, I decide, hey, I want to sell the property. I just have to tell my client or tenant, hey, I'm about to sell property. I'm gonna give you a 60-day notice. That's all. Okay. But yeah, you're right. Lease, it ends up that's February 15. It's gonna end at that time, and then it's up to you to renew it or not. And I always try to find out the month before at least, so it gives me time to post it up, clean it up if I need to.
But if you terminate it in between the 12 months, then you have to do it. Right?
So yes, here's a good question. So what if you're in a lease and the tenant wants to close the lease in the middle of it? Yeah, they are liable for the rest of it if you wanted to. Now let's say vice versa. If the landlord wants to terminate it, well, the tenant actually has full ability to make the landlord uphold the lease unless they violated some type of rule. So if I can find out maybe the tenant subleased it to somebody, right? Then I might have a way to evict them. I file a UD and say, hey, you subleased it without letting me know. You're in violation, and I could kick them out for that reason, but not because I just want to end early. Okay. And every city has their own rules. Like San Jose just passed for, it's been a while now. I say just passed, but they're on rent control now, which is crazy. I never thought San Jose will be on rent control, but it is, right? Yeah. Unlike prior tenancies, lease agreements does not automatically renew unless option to renew is extended. So this kind of answers your question. And a rental market is a market environment which landlord seeks tenants and vice versa. How does the rental market be determined? Of course, it's population of prospective tenants. So many people want to live in California. Well, used to want to live in California. I heard a lot of people want to leave now, right? But there's still a lot of renters here. Number of properties competing, and also comparative position of the property and its amenities. Amenities just means like bonuses, like if it has a swimming pool, if it has a gym in the community, if it's close to BART, those are amenities. Relationships to competing properties. So of course, if you have a lot of amenities, this is a newer property, you can rent out for more than, your next door neighbor if they don't have it. Now, locating a prospective tenant. The landlord must establish creditworthiness. Credit is important, right? Because that's why I tell people, build your credit early and don't let it go bad. Because if your credit gets shot, buying a house is hard, renting is hard, buying a car is hard, and if you are able to get it, you're usually paying a lot of money also. Your interest rate a lot higher and you end up costing you a lot of money, right? I think now they're doing credits for even getting your loan license. You want to get a loan license, FYI guys, you have to have good credit. It's even getting a job now, they check your credit. So make sure you try to get good credit. Okay. Let's talk about credit application. Credit application landlord uses, of course, once the tenant writing history, employment history, check writing history, and their credit standing. I like to go above and beyond. And this is getting ridiculous too, because I have to add this in. So I'll tell you a true story. So first off, when I do check for background, I also check the criminal background history because you want to check their crime. In Oakland, they're trying to say that you cannot check their criminal background history for a rental, which makes no sense. If I'm letting someone rent my property, I want to make sure they're not murderers or thieves or whatnot, right? Which, it's crazy. But I heard that I saw an article regarding that. I don't know if it passed or not. I doubt it, but that's ridiculous to me. But you do want to check everything. And there's a website. If you go on Google, there's a few places that do this. It's just type tenant screening. I make them pay for it. They pay $30-$40 for it. They get the whole report, so they have it for themselves, and I get a copy. So I don't have to go out there and run their credit, get a credit application, fill that out. Because back then I used to do that. I run the credit by filling out a credit application. I like using the online vendors now. So easy, and you get everything. So I get not just the criminal background, you can also get the check writing history. Like if they ever had bounced checks, if they ever had evictions, you want to check that, right? Now, I don't know if it says in here, it doesn't, but what I always check also is I actually call their references and their workplace, but I don't call the workplace from the number that they give. I had someone lie on it. I caught someone lying on their credit report on the application rental where they don't no longer work there, but they say they work there, and it was like to a friend. When I called the actual company HR department, they said no person like that works here, and I caught them for that lie. So you guys got to be careful. Like people are because they're getting evicted and they have bad credit, they're doing everything they can to try to get into a new place, and of course you don't want to inherit someone else's problem that got evicted before, right? Or doesn't have a job. Is even worse. They don't have a job and try to rent a place. How are you gonna pay for it, right? Okay, so really good tips to have. As a prospective tenant, if they do have poor credit, there are other ways though. You can first off check their rent to income ratio. Typically, what most people want is at least 2 to 3 times what the rent is to what their income is. So if their rent is $2,000, you want them to make at least 4 to 6,000. Of course, 6,000 is better, right? But you can ask for co-signers. Co-signers is someone else that either they could live in it or not, but they will be liable for the debt if they don't pay for it. Or guarantee agreement where it's a credit where the individual says, I don't want to be on my title, but I have agreement that says if they don't pay for it, I will take care of it. Okay. To avoid disputes over who's responsible for damages, make sure you and landlord and the tenant has the condition of premise addendum signed before they take possession. Okay. Now, before a tenant takes possession, landlord, resident manager, and inspects the unit. Normally do a walkthrough with them and just go, hey, this is all the stuff that we did. We just fixed up. Everything works perfectly. Maybe let them know the toilet is loose. If they want us to fix that, we could fix that. But in the future, when we give back the property, we have that stated in there that we're not going to charge them for that, right? Or again, a crack on the mirror or whatever it is. So any existing damages, okay, put that in. Any repairs to be made. So have that in agreement. So let's just say the tenant moves in and say, hey, can you replace the carpet because it has a pet's odor or something like that. Typically, as a property manager and as an owner, landlord, you should take care of those. You get better rents, you get better tenants when you do those type of stuff anyways. But yeah, write down all the repairs that you're going to promise them to do. Okay. Excuse me. What if, yes, go ahead.
So say we have repairs coming, back and forth. And I will give my example.
Okay.
I live in a condo which is rented.
Mhm.
So I had an issue going on back to back. So one of the times the toilet was
Sure.
the
Back up.
yeah. And last week I had the tap.
Okay.
Yeah. So does it really affect your deposit? Like, the issues you're having?
So, I mean, there's some called normal wear and tear. Like they can tell sometimes if there was abuse. Like if it's just normal wear and tear, they're supposed to cover for it. Like, yeah, like the toilet thing, it got clogged. So toilet clog, I remember I fixed it twice and it got clogged again. I was like wondering what's going on. And I found out that the kid was putting their toys and flushing the toys down the toilet. The tenant's responsible for those, right?
No, it wasn't something like
Oh no,
that. It was a water tap.
okay, yeah, I'm just giving an example. But if it's normal, landlords usually supposedly have to do it, but it always based on the lease agreement. So if I show you a copy of my lease agreements, if it's under $150, I make the tenant be responsible for it. So yeah, anything above that is a major thing. I'll take care of it. So I have that agreement. So it always based on your agreement with your tenant or your landlord on that side. So check your lease agreement and see what it says on there. But I mean, as a tenant, I'll always ask, can you fix this? Can you fix that? Especially if it's something that broke like that. And hopefully you have a good landlord that fixes it right away. Okay. Like if something like that happened, I have a handyman. So I send a handyman and go fix all the stuff. And usually within a day or two, hopefully. If it's something big, like if it's like a leak, I if he can't do it, I'll find someone to hire to at least get done as soon as possible. Because you don't want the issue. You don't want it to cause more damage. Okay. So landlord and pet addendum. Okay. Pets a big issue. I know I had times where I said no pets and people brought pet anyways. Okay. And it sucks, but pets really ruin the property. Like my carpet had to be fully replaced because they peed all over it. Okay. You can put addendum and say type of pet, and then amount of pets because you don't want a cat lady with 30 cats in there. Right. It's up to them if they uphold it. It's so hard to enforce it and maintain it. You could threaten them and say, hey, you better give away your pets, or I'm gonna evict you. Some they give away for a week and then they bring it back. That's kind of what they do. But you could charge additional security deposits. Okay, but there is a limit to the security deposit that you can take. And of course, you should have a hold harmless agreement. If your pet damages or hurts somebody, that you're not liable, right? You want to make sure you have that agreement in place. Now, a landlord cannot prohibit a disabled person from keeping a trained dog, though. So if they are the seeing eye dogs, or now a lot of people have the companionship dogs, because they're, they suffer from anxiety or depression. Well,
Emotional support animal.
emotion support, yeah. So yeah, you can't ban those. Okay, just FYI. You cannot even do this. You can't say, I'll let you have the dog or pet. I don't want to always use dog, but the pet, unless you declaw them or devocalize them, which is taking their vocals out. Refuse to rent to them if it has not been declawed or devocalized, or say, I'll let you do it if you do it. So you can't require them to do it. Okay. Waterbed. Let's talk about waterbed addendum. So I never had anybody have waterbed at my house, my properties, but you should have this addendum that no, you cannot have it. And if they do want it, to have a proper insurance. Why? Because if you have a waterbed on the second floor, they're holding 150, 200 gallons of water. If that bursts, oh man, your floors are done, right? So you want to have a addendum that says, hey, no water beds. Smoking is, man, I remember I went to this property with one of my clients. You could smell the smoke from the walls. There are chain smokers in the house for sure. It is very hard to get rid of the smell. Okay, we actually have a company that does these removals. It costs thousands, FYI, thousands. Okay, to remove the smell. But you can have back in January 2012, they actually banned from smoking inside the house. Hopefully you enforce it and they uphold it. But you have a non-smoking addendum in there. Make sure you do that. Other addendums may be part of the real estate, so you could have house rule, building rules, such as quiet time, things like that. Any rents. Wait, you know what? Hold up. There's a slide that we missed, because I remember there's a slide that is furnishing. Oh, okay, I skipped this. I apologize. So we talked about this one. The furnished units. Okay. A lot of people do Airbnbs now. A lot of people have short-term rentals. If you do these type of leases where you have furnishings, you can, but you have to, of course, get inventory of all the furnishings. You have to have the condition of it and the tenants to accept its furnishing and the responsibility for it. Okay. The reason why I want you to know this is because when you have furnishing on there, you can actually get extra more deposit. Okay. But I think I skipped it for some reason. I think I probably scrolled down too much. Yeah, there it goes. Okay. We've done that. We've done that. Okay, so back to here, house rules and any other rent control disclosures required by rent control ordinances. So hopefully you know your city. If there's any disclosures that you must put, like lead-based paint and things like that, make sure you have it. Rental and lease agreement are prohibited tenants from using unlawful purposes, of course, like selling drugs on the premises, creating nuisance like too much noise at 4 a.m. in the morning, or committing waste like pouring gasoline on your yard. Okay, or even a lot of people do oil changes, and then they just pour it out down the sewer drain. You're not supposed to do that, so don't do that, right? Lease agreement. So of course you can have a lease agreement. It is a contract of conveyance. What does conveyance mean? Really, come on, conveyance, transfer. I just heard it.
Transfer.
Yes. So as a landlord, when you have this lease agreement, you are transferring partial ownership. Is a ownership of enjoyability, the ownership of where they can tell people to get off their property, right? I can't think of the word right now, but there's the 5 bundle rights. Hopefully you guys remember the whole 5 bundle rights. But the lease agreement also conveys possessory interest of real estate called a leasehold estate, simply called lease. A lease agreement conveying term of occupancy exceeding 1 year must be in writing to be enforceable. And this is a requirement with the statute of frauds. Okay. I always see this in the exams also. So make sure you know this. A proper lease agreement will have 5 sections: identification of the parties, premises, house of conveyance, and the term. Terms of payment of the rent or other amounts owed, because sometimes people have to pay for their own utilities. Sometimes people have to pay extra for a carport or garage or storage unit. Provisions that sets forth the responsibility for care and maintenance. Like it's also called use maintenance provision. Who takes care of the gardening? Who takes care of the trees, etc. Miscellaneous provisions for circumstance on specific to the transaction, and of course you have to have all signatures on all the parties. In addition to individuals, business entities which may own or lease properties, not just individuals can buy and lease properties. It could be corporations. Of course, a corporation must have a qualifying as a corporate, as a business trust. LLCs, limited liability companies, can own and lease properties. Partnerships and global general liability limit partners. REITs are real estate investment trust. It's kind of like a group investment, right? Nonprofit organizations, of course, like charities and churches, and government. Government can actually rent your property as well, right? Like a CI doing a sting. They want to rent your property, then you can rent from them, or they can rent from you. Typically, just know that if you were to rent to a corporate or like a little LLC, you have to have a corporate resolution. There's a document that states that whoever signed from the board of directors gives the authority of the officer to sign that lease that is going to bind the corporate to your lease, right? Because if anybody just says, hey, I work for I work for the government, I'm gonna sign this lease for the Milpitas government, you're gonna want some identification, right? Same for the corporate. You want to make sure that even though he shows you a business card, that he's like a high level officer that can sign on behalf of the company. Typically, the longer the term of a non-residential lease, so we're talking about commercial lease right here, okay? No, the more extensive the shift of ownership and responsibility is to the tenant. We're including property operating expenses, even all or future real estate taxes called ad valorem tax imposed. So like those Walmarts, those Walgreens, that those standalone, they have like those triple net leases. A lot of them pay for all costs of ownership. If it leaks, they have to fix it. Property tax go up, they have to pay for it. So especially as a super long-term lease, okay? Hazard insurance premiums, they have to pay for their own hazard insurance. Repair and maintenance, like I mentioned, if there's a lease, like residential, typically landlord takes upon that. But commercial, hey, if they want to fix up the property, they have to pay all of it, okay? Even risk of increase in interest rate on adjustable rate, you can factor that into the contract also, right? So the responsibility of payment of operating costs is reflected to what type of lease is called. And I'm going to give you a couple. Gross lease is kind of what you want if you're a renter, okay? What you don't want if you're a landlord. And then there's a net lease, and those are what you want as a landlord, okay? So gross lease is a non-residential lease specified that the tenant pays for their utilities, janitorial, but not responsible for other care, like maintenance and other costs, right? At this office, so you guys, the ones that are here, see this office, I actually have a full service gross lease. And what is this? Is I specifically have the landlord retain all responsibility. They pay for care maintenance, they pay for my electricity, they pay for my cleaning services, the only janitorial services. Only thing I need to pay for, of course, is phone and internet. Actually, before I even got internet free, but when they raised the rent on me, they stopped paying for my internet. So of course, everything's negotiable, okay? But I have a full service gross lease, and that's what you want as a renter, all right? Then there's a net lease. Net lease is the lease where the transfer sum of the obligations to the tenant, okay? It could be some utilities, it could be janitorial services. However, what you want is like a triple net. Triple net lease, of course, is the responsibility of all the costs and maintenance goes to the tenant. So what we call net lease. This is, of course, what you want as a landlord. Now let's talk about notice of change in rental terms. What if you want to change? Well, it has to be written. You can't just call them and say, hey, I'm gonna raise your rent and next month just pay me $200 more. You can't do that. It has to be written and give them notice, okay? So the most common notice is 30-day notice period or a 60-day notice period required for rent increase greater than 10%. Every city and county has their own rental rules. Make sure you follow that rules also, okay? Now, being served with a notice to change of the month to month, there are 3 options. You cannot do this for lease, because leases, again, you can't change it. That's why leases are good. On a month to month, you can always change it. So what happens? You remain in possession and you say, okay, I'm okay with the changes. I'll pay you the extra $200. Second thing you do, serve a landlord 30-day notice to intent to vacate. Hey, I don't want to pay for this. I'm going to find another place to live. Okay. Of course, you have to continue to pay rent also including pro rata. If let's say, you know, I moved in on the 10th and I stayed to the 15th, I have to pay 5 days of extra in rent. Or you can remain in possession, refuse to comply, raise defenses, sue them, say retaliatory eviction, you're not supposed to be able to do this, etc. Right? Especially if like you're in a protected class and they're trying to raise your rent like really high just to try to kick you out, then you can do that. Most rent control ordinances allow landlord or property manager to increase rent to either obtain a fair return on their investment, recover costs of capital improvement, or pass the cost of servicing a debt to property owner. So, you know, every year you're allowed to raise your rent up to a certain amount. I believe in California they pass a rule like 5% or something like that. Again, don't quote me on that. But you can also have, hey, I put capital improvements into it. I just fixed up the whole kitchen for you, and I dumped in like $20,000 for it. You can raise the rent a little bit because of that too, and factor that in. Okay. Without further authority from the landlord rent control board, landlord may increase of 3 ways. Increase rent percentage set by local ordinances, which again I told you, I believe what California passed as far as the rent control. Increase rent by maximum set as the CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, or increase the rent by maximum previously set by the local rent board. Okay. Both non-residential and residential are required the tenant to pay a first month rent or a security deposit as a requisite to enter into a lease agreement. Hopefully you guys all know what that is. You just put a deposit that says, hey, when I give back the property, it should be at the same condition and I get the whole amount back, right? Provide source of money lost incurred due to default of monetary obligation. Of course, tenant monetary obligations, paying rent, reimbursing landlord for expenses, maintaining premises of occupancy, and returning the premises to the same level of cleanliness, right? Less original wear and tear. Like you can't have it brand new. Like if, you know, there's still things that will go wrong, which I was mentioning to Pretty, you know, if like things are getting old, like the cabinets are getting kind of worn, that's wear and tear. You know, unless I slammed it and broke chipped it off, then they can make me pay for it as a renter. But if it's just like, hey, the hooks are loosening up pieces, the screws are loosening, those are normal wear and tear, and they cannot or should not charge for that. Okay. Amount of security deposits may demand is controlled. A lot of people don't know this because I get tenants that go to me and say, hey, look, I don't have credit or I don't have a good job. Can I just pay like 6 months or 10 months in advance? They're not supposed to accept that. Okay. So any money handled to residential landlord by tenant entered into a rental is characterized as either 1, rent, 2, security deposit, 3, a water bed administrative fee, or 4, a tenant screening fee, which I told you guys, if you wanted to run the credit, I just have them run it right now. Again, 30 some bucks. Rent compensation includes, you know, just basically for landlord exchange for the tenant use. You guys know what rent is. I don't think I gotta explain that. Now, what is the tenant screening fees? It's money limited to out-of-pocket costs for gathering information, costs for landlords and property managers' time spent, okay, in processing. You can't charge them a crazy amount, like $1,000 for a screening fee, right? Security deposit is also limited. 2 months max unfurnished, 3 months if it's furnished. Okay, 3 months if it's furnished. Now, landlords often try to mask refundable deposits, even use names like non-refundable deposit, cleaning fee. The best one is last month's rent. You can't go, I want 1 month security deposit, first and last month's rent. Why? Because that's total 3 months, right? Remember, you can only get 2 months of rent if it's unfurnished. So if I'm renting to them and I got my security deposits, I got my first month's and last month's, that's 2 already, right? So basically, you know, don't try to ask for all these additional. And if you were asked by a landlord to do that for yourself, make sure you let them know, hey, that's against the rules. Registered landlord is to notify tenant in writing if they have a right to refuse the joint pre-expiration inspections prior to tenant vacating. And then, of course, this is the one where you go in and tell them, if you fix this, I won't take the deductibles. Well, some people know that they did more damage than the deductible, and sometimes they just leave it as is. A lot of times, I'm gonna be honest with you, landlords will never go after for the extra damages unless it's like a lot. Like I had times where my tenant left and all the junk is still there. Like they left all the junk there. Just to remove it, I had to rent one of those big trucks. It cost more than their deposit. I'm not gonna go and sue and take them to small claims court for the other 500 to $1,000, right? So just be aware when tenants do that, right?
So what is your recourse? I mean, even if you tell somebody, let's say for instance, he did say, hey, I want first month's, last month's, and security deposit, which is all the same amount. So let's say that he's renting it for $3,200,
Okay.
and he wants first and last month's, and you tell him, hey, that's not feasible. But then obviously you're not going to rent the place, or he's going to be like, well, if you don't give it to me, then I can't rent you the place.
Yeah.
Like, what is the recourse to that? Like, you can't really say anything and be like, okay, well, I guess.
Honestly, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But if he make it a requisite, the landlord can do that. But let's say you did give him 3 months deposit, 3 months in deposit, and now you can actually file for a complaint, and most likely you will win the case, and they will have to refund 1 month of deposit. That's what I would say. That
Right.
will likely be the most probable scenario.
Right. But then
Yeah.
now you have a bad landlord, or not a bad one, but
Bad relationship.
an irritate. Yeah. So.
Well, and it depends. Like, I mean, you still want to be protected as a tenant also. So if this actually did happen, and you say, hey, I just found out that you're not supposed to hold this much a deposit of mine, and see if they try working out with them first before snitching on them, right? So I would try to work it out with them, right? But again, for some people, they don't mind. I actually do have someone that I helped get a commercial building. Commercial's different from this one anyways, but commercial, he gave 6 months, especially right now, like the pandemic, people are scared, especially businesses. So they requested 6 months. He's doing very well with his other business, and he's expanding. He was totally fine with it. Hey, 6 months of prepaid. So just because that's the rule doesn't mean you have to follow it, right? Okay. Will landlord receive a tenant oral or written request for a pre-expiration inspection? The landlord has to serve a 48 notice. You have to give a notice, again, purpose and a date and time. Okay. Let's talk about statement of deficiencies. What if there is things wrong with it? So you have to have a document that presents the tenant specifics like repairs and cleaning to be completed to avoid deductions within the window of 21 days. This is what I hate. My tenants, when they move out, they want me to give them the deposit right away because they need it for the next place or something like that. Well, you have to give us time sometimes, because especially if it's not in good shape, I have to get bids, right? So let them know by law, I have 21 days even after you vacate to be able to give you the final inspection, refund the deposit, less reasonable deductions, and provide the tenant with an itemized statement if I do deduct. So if I said, hey, I'm gonna deduct because you didn't clean the carpets because it's really bad, you broke this thing, whatever, and then just give them this costs $100 to do, this costs $300 to do a carpet cleaning, etc. Right? Yes.
Oh, whoops, I missed last page. It says the notice of tenant requested right to what?
Last page. This one.
Yeah, it was the request the right to.
Oh yeah, if they
written over.
Yeah, if they
pre-expiration inspection.
Yeah, so if they say they're leaving and I go, hey, I have to see your property. I have to go and look at it to let you know what I require you to fix before I deduct it, then I have to serve them a 40-hour notice. Does that make sense? So if the tenant says, hey, I want a pre-expiration inspection, then you just go, okay, let me give you 48-hour notice to enter. So you let them know purpose, pre-expiration inspection. Date, I'll be there at tomorrow at noon. Well, it has to be 48 hours. So like Friday at noon, whatever it is. Okay. So now we finish this. Final inspection.
Vince, question.
Yes. Michelle?
if it's taking time to refurbish the place or repair it or recarpet it, say
Yeah.
5 days, 10 days, can you
Mhm.
recharge rent to the tenant for that?
No. So if they moved out and you spent those 5 days to repair it, you
Mhm.
can't charge them rent. You only charge them the cost of repairs.
So who bears that rent? Is it the landlord?
Yeah, the landlord technically has to eat up that cost. That's part of doing business to, but it's kind of like when I bought the property, I have to pay mortgage and then I can't rent out until I fix it. Tenant's not gonna pay while you're fixing it. So what I would suggest doing, so like if possible, you always want to do win-win situations, right? So like
Mhm.
the only way I would suggest is like, hey, factor that into the cost where and you have to be fair too. Like if the tenant moves on the 28th and it takes 5 days to do it, again, if it's just a small thing like that, I wouldn't mind too much anyways. If they did a lot extensive damage where you're gonna take 30 days to remodel the whole house, that's a different story. That you're gonna have to take them to court for that because your security deposit wouldn't cover that anyways. You just gotta eat the cost, to be honest. Yeah, it's you can't really charge them and say, hey, because you moved out on the 15th, it takes me 5 days to do the carpets. I'm gonna charge you 5 days of rent. I can see a big lawsuit from them to you also, and I don't think you're gonna win for that. So,
Got it.
but no, that's
Because-
a fair question. That's a fair question. If
Sometimes if the rent is expensive and
it is, right now, like rent, a room is like $1,500, $1,800. It's crazy in some areas. Only thing I'd say is tell your contractor finish it faster. Because honestly, to replace a carpet, it takes 1 day. We replace the whole condo carpet in 1 day, so it shouldn't take 5 days anyways. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to get people on time to do it, and
Oh yeah, well
maybe-
then I mean that's separate. That's like it's yeah, I know what you mean. Okay. Let's see, where am I? Okay. Within 14 days of completion, of course, I have to give them final receipts, invoices, and show proof. However, it is not necessary. It's not necessary to give proof if it was less than $125. Then you don't have to give proof. You just say, hey, I deducted $125 for fixing that one faucet. Okay. Or if they sign a waiver that says, hey, you know what? I'm okay. Take the deposit. I know it's going to cost, just as much. I don't need to receive the copy of the bills. Okay. So reasonable deductions. What is reasonable deductions? Well, any unpaid rent or late charges, recover costs for repairs, cleaning costs, replacing and restoring furnishings. Of course, if you had furnishings, right? The tenant, resident, or even non-resident default on the rental. What if they fail to pay? Well, if they pay rent or other amounts due called for the lease, you have to perform a non-monetary obligation to call for a rental. So if they didn't pay or didn't do any of these, you would give them something called a 3-day notice. And then you say, you have 3 days to pay the liquid wet or 3 days to do what you were obligated to do. I'll give you an example. Let's just say in the lease, we're obligated for the tenant to take care of the front lawn. You guys know that if you have it overgrown, like past your knees or whatnot, so a lot of cities have ordinances, they ticket you, okay? Because one of my clients got the ticket. the tenant never mowed the front lawn and they got a big ticket for it. So now he will send them a 3-day notice, get that lawn cut, and of course they have to take care of the fine because that was built into the lease. Now there's certain things that you need to know if they breached. Okay, it's called breach of contract. There's 3 main breaches. There's a material breach, like failure to pay rent or perform a significant big thing, like not cutting the grass. That's not material breach, but growing marijuana on the premises, that's a material breach. Okay. Then there's minor breach. Minor breach are not paying they pay you rent but not the late charge or very small things, right? Those are minor breaches. You can't kick them out for that. Then there's incurable breach. These are non-monetary defaults that cannot be cured by the tenant, like subleasing it out. So once they sublease it out to another tenant, you have no agreement with that tenant, and it makes it impossible it makes it very difficult, not impossible, very difficult to kick everybody out. Okay. Rent becomes delinquent, of course, business day after due date, unless there's a grace period. Of course, everybody gives a grace period. But the business day following the next grace period now is considered delinquent and is late, and you can charge them a late charge. Okay. For owner to regain possession of a master tenant, even or subtenant, they have to serve a 3-day notice and must name all tenants, even the subtenant, and serve them both. That's why I say it's very difficult, because you don't know who they leased it to. They might lease it to 3 other people. You don't know, right? You only have the information for the master tenant. But you still have to find a way to do it. Okay. Depending on nature of extent of the breach, landlord will either serve 3 things. So I will serve either a 3-day notice to pay or quit, especially if they didn't pay rent. Hey, 3 days to pay or leave. 3 days to perform or quit is, hey, get the front lawn cut or leave. 3 days notice to quit is, I'm not giving you any chance. You got to get out. Like if they were growing meth on the property, okay? Because they do like those meth, it's explosive. It can blow up the whole house, right? Monetary breach, of course, is a 10-year failure to pay rent. Non-monetary breach will be obligations other than anything that's money related, okay? 3-day notice to perform or quit requires a tenant to either perform or leave. I kind of mentioned this already. It's just reinstating it. But statutory breach is I think this is on a quiz, is a breach that the lease agreement automatically forfeits the tenant's rights. He did something really bad and he got to get out. Okay. So statutory breach include unauthorized subletting, maintaining nuisance, or anything unlawful. Okay, and maintaining nuisance includes anything injurious to health, such as contaminating property soil, offensive such like excessive noise, obnoxious fumes, or obstructing the use and enjoyment of surrounding property. There's such thing called retaliatory eviction as well. Retaliatory eviction is basically when the landlord attempts to kick the tenant out for a bad reason, like exercising the right to file a complaint. So if someone complains a lot about, bad property, yeah, you can't just evict them because they can complain too much. Orally complain to the landlord about habitability issues, and there's a section that based on habitability. File documents to initiate judicial. Organizing or participating in a tenant association rights. So like if they were fighting for tenants' rights for let's say passing the tenant rent control. Let's say the landlord saw the tenant at the rent control rally and was against it, you can't evict them just for that. Okay, that's retaliatory eviction. Okay, any lawful exercising their rights. Okay. Residential or non-residential terminates a month to month and needs to vacate. Well, if the notice vacate form opposed to the notice to quit is used, you have to have the name of the tenant, address of premises, reference to what the rental agreement is and when it expires if it's a lease, statement that, you have to remove by either 30 days or 60 days, the dollar amount of pro rata. Hey, if you stay past every day, it will cost you $120, whatever it is. You prorate, meaning you divide your monthly rent to that month's days, right? Statement regarding security deposits. Of course, we let them know what they have to fix and not fix. Their right to get that pre-joint expiration, and also their tenant rights to reclaim abandoned property. This is a big one, okay? So just because they left and leave their stuff there, you can't just throw away all the things. You get in trouble for that. You have to try to get them and give them notice and say, hey, if you don't get it back within a certain amount of days, then we're going to dispose of it and give them a chance to come and get it. All right. You can't just next day throw it out. If a tenant serves a 30-day notice to vacate but fails to vacate, well, what happens then? They become a holdover tenant. They're unlawful, and the landlord may immediately file an unlawful detainer. Hopefully, it's because they just need more time to move, and they pay you the per diem or they prorate it, but sometimes they don't. All right. When a residential property is located in a rent control community, landlord has less discretion. You can't just kick them out for no reason. Typically, termination and evictions are allowed only when they fail to pay rent or a big material breach, create a nuisance, refuse to renew a lease, does something illegal, or and there's a rule that the landlord or relative can kick a tenant out if they want to move back in. Okay, there is that rule. However, there are a lot of restrictions and a lot of things to this rule. Because I'd like to tell you true stories. I have a friend that he used this statutory. It's I have a name. I'm blanking out right now. But basically, he did this. You can, it's in San Francisco. You cannot rent it out afterwards for a certain amount of time. Well, guess what? He lived in for a little bit, rented back out. Previous landlord, previous renter found out, sued him for like 150,000 and won. So be careful when you use these. Okay, so you have to know what you're doing. All right. Okay. Exceptions exist, of course, if there's Section 8 housing. Hopefully, you guys know what Section 8 housing is. It's basically government assistance. And for termination of these, it's more difficult again. Also, I actually have Section 8 housing on one of my properties before. They do annual checks. They make sure that you have to fix a lot of things too. So just make sure you know what you're getting into when you're doing Section 8 housing. Okay. Owner by foreclosure purchase a property. Well, guess what? They have a 90-day notice to vacate. Okay, so if I was buying a property and is foreclosed, you have to let them know you have 90 days to vacate. Okay, and of course, winning bidder of the trustee sale who takes over a property sold on a trustee, you have to give them 90 days. Let's say a residential tenant under a lease agreement acquires leasehold occupied lease agreement for a specific time. Tenant expects the premises and appurtenance, anything that goes along with the property, like parking, storage, available with them to be safe and sanitary and habitable at all times. This is very important, guys. If you have property management, you have to make sure that you follow the rules of habitability. And here's the stuff that you have to be maintained. It has to be, if it's not maintained, if it's not complying with building codes, if it's not effectively have waterproofing, must have plumbing and gas, must have hot and cold running water, must have heating. It doesn't say AC in here, okay? AC is not mandatory. Heating is though. Has to have electrical and has to have floors, stairways, and railings, okay? You should have these anyways, because if someone ends up getting hurt and falls, they can sue you as a landlord, right? Now, here's
As a
some
landlord,
cool
do you
fun-
have to,
I'm sorry, go
do
ahead.
you have to, do you have to have, because I know in commercial properties, you have to have the handicap accessibility, but as a residential landlord, do you also have to have that as well? Is that a rule as part of the habitability or no?
No, so so there is something on businesses that they're going to talk about for this issues that they have to keep for any 4 units and above, I believe, if I remember, must have handicap access. You're right. But
Right.
as far as like me as a single family house, no, I don't have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so stairways, okay, so that doesn't
Yeah.
include that.
So okay, what if you know there's something that is not habitable? Okay, first off, you could vacate. You could say constructive notice. I can't live with this mold issue here. I care about my health. I could just leave. You could break a lease if it's because of habitability issues. You can stop paying rent and say the breach of implied home warranty, home habitability. You can raise defense and file UD. You can repair and deduct the cost from the rent. I didn't know this, right? So you can actually say, I've got it fixed. I'm gonna deduct it from rent. You can actually get recovery money losses due to it. Like, let's just say if it was leaking, you told them it's leaking, they still didn't fix it, and it ruined your furniture. Okay, you can sue them for it or recover losses from it. You can even seek injunction and tell them, hey, you better stop maintaining this and get law involved. Okay, so you have a lot of choices. Let's talk about crime. There's something called reasonable foreseeable. If there was crime or danger, you have to either two things: provide security measure. So like if you got broke into, put alarm system, put emergency lights, whatever, cameras, or if you don't do that, you have to let the tenant know you're moving in. Just let you know this house got robbed last year or last month or wherever it is, and give them warning so they can do something about it. Okay, so you have to do one of these, either or, prevent it from happening or telling them. So I'm trying to move faster. I think we only have a few more chapters. So building codes. So hopefully you guys know what building codes are, but building codes are made to protect us. It's made where the city goes, it has to follow, electrical has to be done a certain way, plumbing has to be a certain way, okay? And the state law housing construction requires, of course, for single family houses, apartments, hotels, motels to follow these building codes. The Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, is responsible for adopting these rules, and they're the one that established the building codes. The people that come out, of course, it's called the building inspectors. Building inspectors come and they ensure that it complies. Hey, making sure the road ordinances is followed, the zoning is followed. Because if I was a zone R1 as a residential property and they see 5 units on there, well, that's not ordinance, right? Contractors. I hope you guys all know what contractors are a bit. You know, if you construct, alter, repair, you're considered contractors, and you have to be licensed. Licensed contractor if it's more than 500. So here's exempt from contractor license. Anything less than 500, anything that's done by the owner. If you're an owner, you can do as much work as you want. You don't need to have a contractor to do it. Work permitted by public utility, oil and gas operation, or work performed for agricultural purposes don't need a license for contracting. There's 3 main types of license for contractors. There's a general engineering, where it's do all the engineering stuff, general building, that's do the buildings, and specialty. Specialties are like the ones that do like fire extinguishers, running piping or whatnot. Okay, there's specialty. Again, so general building, of course, if it's for any construction of structures of occupation, you need a general building contractor. And specialties are anybody that does like fire extinguisher systems, laying carpet, preparing roadway constructions, etc. This is on the quiz, so I got to put in here. Placement of the house upon a lot is referred to orientation, because you have to know what good orientation is. Give example, like I know a lot of feng shui people, they want, you know, the front door to face east facing or west facing, wherever it is, right? South facing. But there's a science to it, because you want the sun to come up where you get natural light in the daytime, or vice versa. And you want to know good orientation makes a huge difference for properties. Okay. New construction also wants to conform with building control, because without building control, growth can be sporadic, inconsistent, or potential society problems. Because if I, in my area, build 20-unit buildings and there's no parking for it, that would cause a lot of issues, right? So poor access, inadequate street parking, inconsistent architectural, poor air quality, or insufficient public services. So we have to have all these in case. Public controls enacted through our state codes, zoning ordinances, local and general master plans we'll talk about, and building codes. So every city has a plan commission. They go and say, do you notice all the car dealerships are on one spot? A lot of the industrial is on one spot. All the residential is always in one spot. It's because it's part of the general plan to make it look nice. You don't have a gas station, then a house, then a convenience store, then another house, then something else, right? It'll be weird. So they want all the places in uniform. So what they set forth is what you can use the land for, what are the patterns, what's used for housing, what's used for conservation, what must be open space. They have like parks. That's why we have to have parks. Noise level control. And of course, big thing is safety. Okay. Subdivision ordinances, basically primary method of implementing a general plan. So when you want to build something and you have a big piece of land, you have to get it subdivided. And they use a subdivision map act. This is on the quiz. Make sure you know that. Establishes a condition to approve a subdivision map. So if you want to be oh my God, what's wrong with my head right now? You want to be a builder, right? A developer, that's the word I was thinking. A developer, you have to know all this. Last chapter, finally. Okay, let's talk about math. I know a lot of you guys hate math, right? Some people love math. Just let you guys know, you cannot bring any calculator or your phone in there. They will give you a basic calculator with just the regular stuff to use, so you don't have to do long math. Okay. Couple things you want to know are these sections right here, like a township. What does it consist of? 36 square miles of 36 sections. So it's basically 6 miles by 6 miles. Okay, and they break it up, and that's how they divide land. Each section is 1 square mile. You have to know how much acres is in it, because they might test you on that. I underlined this because this is important. 1 acre equals 43,560 square foot. I just remember there's 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember, there's those numbers in there. It must have 3, 4, 5, 6 in there, and it's outside in. So 43, 56. So if you could remember this, because we actually use this in real life too. So whenever we go on MLS, sometimes they'll tell you, hey, it's 0.3 acres. We have to calculate it and tell our clients how much square footage on the lot is. Okay, so that we actually use. All the other stuff, unless you're a developer, you won't really use. Okay, a mile consists of 5,280 foot. I remember there's a question that needed that. That's why I added that in there too. You have to know percentage, you have to know fractions, you have to know area, how loans work, investment cost analysis, which I'll give you some samples, capitalization rates, and all mathematical concepts in common real estate transactions. Okay, so I'm gonna give you some basic ones. Okay, these are very easy. Hopefully you guys know how to calculate percentage. 50% is 0.5. That's simple. Same for percentages. 1.43 is 143%. Okay, hopefully you know all these basic stuff. Knowing fractions is very easy. You divide 4 by 5, it'll show you 0.8 on your calculator anyways. So just know this. Know how to calculate area. It's just length time width, right? So I'll give you a question. Question would be, there's a rectangle lot. It's 1,230 foot by 2,340 foot. They want to know in acres how big this is. See, now you have to know, right? So you just do that, the length times the width. That's how much square foot it is, divided by the 4356, and you get 66 acres, and that's the answer. Okay. I mean, this is if it's triangle, not all, property is a square. Some are triangular, then you figure it out by dividing half. Okay. Broker fee. You want to know your broker fee, right? That's important for us. Well, if you made it's supposed to be $1 million. I keep forgetting to change it a bit. Let's say you $1 million home, you get 3%. You just do the math, 0.03, you get $30 as a broker fee. Okay, so that's very simple, right? This is more what you're gonna get. Those you're never gonna get. You're gonna get something like this. A seller wants 8% return. They bought it for $125,000. What do they need to sell it price for? So this is what you need to calculate, right? And then basically here's the formula. It's net price is you want 108% of it. So you do the math, 108% of 125 equals 135,000. That's the minimum price they need to get for 8%. And there's a whole bunch of practice questions. If you really want to go page 567 on the principles textbook, do all the math you want. But just let you guys know, on the state exam, usually don't have a lot of math questions. Max I see is like 2. You get 2 to 3 questions out of 150 questions. Don't sweat it on this. Again, it's not that important, to be honest, because you can always look up these equations in the real life anyways, right? You don't have to know it for a test. All right, I'm so sorry we went way over today. Oops. I need screen share. Let's go. Oops, I accidentally put. Can you see it, my screen? Let's go do the quiz really quick. Really quick. Okay. Quiz number 5. Let's go. Blank contained in a trust authorized in a trustee initial non-judicial foreclosure and default of foreclosure from the beneficiary. It's D, power of sale provision. Okay, power of sale provision. I'm just gonna go quick because I still have to show you guys how to take the quiz exam today. I didn't know I was gonna take this long today. Prior to completion of the trustee sale, the owner may blank by paying all sums under the deed and reimbursement. Of course, that's redeem the property in foreclosure. A. Number 3, before recording the NOD, notice of default, you must record the notice of trustee sale, C. Okay, C. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I take that back. It's D. Conducting pre-foreclosure workout. You have to conduct a pre-foreclosure workout. So number 3 is D. D. Always read all the questions first, okay? So 3D. Number 4, blank after recording the notice of default, the trustee has, of course, 1 month, 30 days. So B, 1 month. Number 5, at least 20 days. So answers A, 20 days, you have to select the trustee sale, okay? Number 6, trustee sale is considered final and complete when the beneficiary makes the highest and best bid. So C, okay, accept the highest and best bid is number 6. Number 7, blank is a court-ordered sale to public auction secured to property lasting 8 months to multiple years, and that's judicial foreclosure, A. Number 8, A, certificate of sale is issued to successful bidder on a judicial sale because they have a reinstatement redemption period. Number 9, a MID, mortgage interest deduction, is the itemized deduction for write-offs, as a tax write-off. Okay, so B. Blank is the individual's home where the owners resides majority of the year. Of course, that's principal residence. So D. 11, tenant negotiations that perform can be unlicensed agent who have retained and managed a apartment building. Of course, they can accept rents and deposits. They can't do any negotiations. Okay, so C, they can only accept rents and deposits. Number 12, apartment complex with 16. So C, 16 units or more, needs a residential manager. Intangible image opinion of the property held which affects earning power is A, goodwill. A month-to-month agreement runs for a definite period of time. Of course, is B. To avoid disputes over responsible, of course, you want a D, condition of premise addendum. Okay, that's when we say what is wrong. Lease agreement conveying term of occupancy exceeding, of course, 1 year needs to be in writing. Blank provision, which is the application was assumed between tenant and law. Oh, I can't remember this one. I have to double check. I believe as a lease assumes assures application choice when disputes arise. Oh, A, choice of law. You have a choice of law provision, and that prevents from any disputes. 18, a landlord under a month-to-month rental agreement can increase rent or shift repairs of maintenance obligations to tenant by serving a notice of change in rent, C, because you're just changing rent and or repairs, right? Okay.
What was 15 again?
15 is D, condition of premise addendum.
Premises addendum, yeah.
D.
Okay, go.
19, a blank provides a source of recovery for money lost incurred by landlord. Of course, it's deposits, security deposit, right? B. No repairs are made for rental. Resident landlord must refund the security deposits within 21 days. C, 21 days. A tenant who commits a incurable or statutory breach. Statutory breach is served a 3-day notice to quit. So it's a statutory breach is automatically forfeiture. Okay, statutory breach. D. 22, blank is a set period before the due date of grace period. So A, grace period. 23, a 3-day notice before or quit requires a tenant to vacate the premises or, of course, perform. So perform under the breach lease. So A. 20 is A. 24, waste. Waste occurs when it's neglects the premises and impairs the value of failing to maintain as agreed. So 24B. Okay. 25, when a tenant has resided in a residential property for over a year and wants to terminate, that's 60 days. Okay. Under a year, 30 days, 60 days for over a year. 90 days if it's a foreclosure. Oh, shoot. That was the next question. So number 26, 90 days. Because the owner foreclosure is C. Okay. Kind of gave you that too quick. 27, if a landlord breaches the implied warranty of habitability, they fail to comply with the housing codes and building codes. So that's A. 28, construction of residential and commercial buildings is primarily regulated by the state through building codes. That's the only one, building codes. 29, placement of a building upon the lot is referred to as orientation, C. And then the blank established the conditions of approval for subdivision map. Of course, it's the Subdivision Map Act, B. It actually even says subdivision map here also. So it's pretty easy.
What was 25 again?
25 is B, 60-day notice.
And I have two more. I missed 27 and 28.
27 is implied warranty of habitability, so A. 28 is building codes, B.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Sorry, I had to go fast, but it's 8:38. There's still one more thing I need to tell you guys. So if you guys just bear with me. Have everybody here got their login for First Tuesday? I want to make sure you guys got all your login for First Tuesday. Today was the last class for principles. We finished the principles already. This week, take the principles exam. Okay, how do you take that? Student login. Does anybody have the login? If not, I can pull one up.
I think you just send it in the email.
Yeah, I sent it to your email, so I'll just pull it up so you guys don't have to look for it. Enrollment. Pretty, can I just use yours? Okay. Or Steven, can I use yours? I see your name right here, easier. So let's use yours, Steven. Don't worry, there's no confidential information on there or not. Okay. So let's go in here. You just put this in. And then you use your last name. Log in. Okay, so this is the first time you sign in. Just make sure that you are the ones that's taking the test. No other person's taking your test. Okay, so just continue. So on here is your First Tuesday login. You have all your videos. You want some videos to help you with the class. But just go to exams, which is right here. Usually it's a tab. They changed it now. But I'm not gonna click on this because if I click on it, you're gonna take the test. Oops. So once you click on this and you take the exam, they give you a lot of time. I think it was like 2 hours and 30 minutes to do only 100 questions. Is very easy. Just trust me. If you did well on these quizzes, you pass this. Okay. Take this if you can this week, and then next week we're gonna go over all the answers. Okay. What I ask you to do is if you go to I think it's right here, quizzes. Where is it? There's a answer sheet. Oh, I know where. If you go onto exams and you click into this, the next page, when you click on this, will have download the answer sheet. Okay, a download answer sheet where you check A, B, C. While you're taking this test, mark those questions and answers that you pick. The reason why is next week when I go over the question answers, you know which one you got right, which one you got wrong, and that way you can compare, right? Because if you don't write down your answers, you don't know which one you got right or wrong. So when you click on that, there's on the bottom, it'll say print out answer sheet. Okay. I don't want to click on it right now, just in case. Any questions? Just give me a call.
You have to take the exam first before you can print out the answer sheet though, right?
No. So when you click on this, it'll give you the answer sheet just to fill out. Once you finish it
Oh, I see what
online,
you're
because
saying.
it's an online test, it'll give you the
Ah.
answers right away. Not answers, the results. Give you results right away. And if you passed, they give you a score. FYI, if I remember, it's 60% to pass. So you just need a D. So you could get 40 right, like almost half wrong. That's why I said you'll mostly pass. All right, guys. And then you just go here and print out your certificate. Then within the next 2 weeks, which is your 8-week period, take finance and tick practice. These are self-study ones because you're not gonna get tested on these. I already give the answer sheet to these already, but of course by law I want you to try to take it on your own and try to pass it on your own, right? So just take these on your own. Again, you're not gonna really get tested on these, so don't learn it. It's gonna hinder you from passing the state exam because all of it is based on principles. The best to do is to study the materials that I gave you. Okay, all the CD, the program. If you haven't came for the program, let me know when you could come, or just buy a USB from me and I'll ship it to you. And that way you have all the study material and study based on that, because that's what will prepare you for the state exam.
Okay.
All right, guys.
How about
Thank
tomorrow?
you.
What time are you available tomorrow?
I have a busy schedule tomorrow. I have a few appointments. Oh, FYI, I need help, guys. I have a listing for business. He needs to sell it. If you guys know any mechanic, it's in Campbell. He's willing to train for up to 6 months. He's willing to even do seller financing up to like 50%. If you know anybody that wants to start a business, he's profitable already. He's giving all his lifts, all his tools, everything, all the furniture for $200,000. And it's because he got a stroke. He can't work no more. So it's not because the business is doing bad. He has repeat customers, Yelp review, 5 stars. People love him. It's just that he can't work no more. So he needs to sell his business. Huh? It's called Campbell Mercedes Service. Campbell Mercedes Service. If you know any mechanics, please help me sell it. I really want to help him out. He's old now and he wants to sell by spring. So I have a lot of pressure. So I listed it on MLS already. I posted on Facebook. Send me a email, text. It's commercial, so I can give you I can give you a referral fee. I'm willing to pay very nicely if you find a buyer for me. Please let your mechanic friends know, especially if they do Mercedes. 200,000. But one of the programs he used already spent like 75,000 for. The lifts alone, those are expensive. All his tools he's giving away. Every part that he has in stock inventory, he's giving with it too. All the air filters and all that stuff, that's a lot. Okay. And his goodwill, of course, his vendors, all his clients is already profitable, and we can show financials. All right. So yeah. Okay.
So tomorrow's no good. So Wednesday then?
Wednesday's better for me. Yes. Let's do Wednesday.
Okay.
Let me know what time.
I'll text you I'll text you and we'll coordinate on Wednesday.
Sounds good. It
All right.
is and I'm answering questions on this Campbell Mercedes service in Campbell, of course. Okay. Also, for those that are asking about the video for day 4, go the link that I give you. So if you have the link already, every time I upload a new one, it will go to that playlist. I uploaded it, but I forgot to, I guess, put it under the playlist. I'll do that right after this recording is done, and I'll upload both and put both on a playlist. So by tonight, I promise you will have both of them in there. All right, guys. You have a good night. Oh, I won't have the recording done by today though. So it'll start maybe 10 minutes late. But I'll hope to do that in the near future. Or actually I have an old video I'll post up too. Okay. Bye everybody. Good night.
Okay.
Oh, long day today. Whew.